Hello, scholars, and welcome to today's lesson on the Mongols. This is going to be lesson 1-1.1, Enter the Mongols. Now, we can't begin a discussion about who the Mongols become without talking a little bit about who the Mongols were. In 1200 AD, they really are an insignificant band of nomads in North Central Asia. Nobody pays any attention to the Mongols at all. They really are not powerful. Uh, the Mongols themselves were broken into three tribes. There were three tribes of Mongols, and each one was broken into numerous clans. So they were not very well united. Um, Within this clan system, each clan was headed by the eldest male, and the clan was made up of his extended family. In some cases, the clans were quite large, maybe even a couple of hundred people, and in many cases, the clans were really small. Today, we're going to be talking about this man by the name of Temujin, who actually is the head of a clan, but he's the head of a very small clan, less than 24 people in his clan. Now, clan warfare. For hundreds of years, Mongol life is centered on the clan and on tribal warfare. They are not united at all. They are very divided into these clans and these tribes. And this neighboring empire, the Jin Chinese, are doing everything that they can to encourage this. They want this warfare to continue because it keeps the Mongols from uniting. And so long as the Mongols are not united, so long as the Mongols are focused on fighting each other more than anybody else, then they can't possibly threaten the Chinese. And that's what the Mongols do. They spend an inordinate time fighting each other. And they're fighting each other for a really limited amount of resources in their area. So that makes all the resources very valuable. They would conduct raids regularly, steal food, steal animals, and steal wives from each other as well. Women who were captured in raids were then made the wives of those who captured them. Now, today's story is going to be about a guy by the name of Temujin. Temujin is one of these nomadic herders. He's the leader of a very small, very weak, insignificant clan. And in 2003, a rival clan attacks in a raid, and they kidnap his wife. Now, Temujin by himself is the head of a very weak clan. His father was a member of a stronger clan before the family got kicked out. And that stronger clan had a good relationship with Genghis Khan, who was the head of the Kharid tribe. And actually, Temujin's father was good friends with Genghis Khan. So Temujin goes to this Khan, the head of the tribe, one of the three most powerful Mongols out there, and says, "Hey, will you support me in a raid against this other clan to retrieve my wife?" And Khan says, "Yes, I will support you out of the memory of your father. Make sure that you're going to be okay. I'll bring you under my protection." Temujin then leads this raid and is very successful at this raid. And Khan is really impressed with Temujin's leadership and makes him a military leader at the tribal level. Kind of takes him into the tribal level. And now, instead of leading a couple dozen warriors on a raid, Temujin's put in charge of leading hundreds of warriors in larger raids against larger enemies. So this gets into this system of tribal warfare where Temujin is going to be very successful leading these raids. And in doing so, he's going to break with custom, some long-held customs where as soon as the enemy is defeated, as soon as they run away, that means it's kind of first come, first serve for their goods. So as soon as your army is won, you lose all kinds of discipline. Your soldiers, your warriors go into looting, and they just take everything that they can. This is not very good discipline because that retreating army can then reform, plan a counterattack, and then attack you again. You haven't defeated your enemy, you just forced them to retreat from a battle. Well, Temujin changes this by saying, the village is under my control. Nobody is allowed to start looting. It's all my stuff. And then I'm going to redistribute to everybody equally or according to your rank. So everybody's going to get something. And he makes sure that the enemy is really done by chasing the retreating army and continuing to fight until they are no longer a threat. Now, his warriors are really going to appreciate this because they wind up getting larger shares because it's not this add havoc approach. And he really gets a lot of loyalty from his warriors because of this system. This leads to the overall rise of Temujin. The Mongol warriors are starting to look at him as being this great leader. And Kong is now starting to worry about this. He's starting to be afraid of the rise of Temujin, and he makes this plan to assassinate him. He actually agrees to marry one of his daughters to the son of Temujin. But it was really a trick just to get Temujin to leave his army, and then he would attack him. But Temujin learns of the plan after he'd left his army, but before the wedding, and he's got to flee. He's got to get out of there. Now, Kong thinks, I've sent him on the run. He's barely surviving out in the steppe. His army is no longer with him, so I must have won. And he starts having this really, like a celebration to celebrate the fact that Temujin is no longer a threat. But in the meantime, the loyalty of his warriors is so good that they wind up regathering and they wind up finding him. And as Temujin rides to meet Kong in battle, his army just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows along the way because all of these men, they want to fight for him. And Temujin is able to attack Kong before Kong is really ready for him. And Temujin wins that battle. Kong doesn't die in that. He actually flees to a neighboring tribe, but that neighboring tribe then executes him. This leads to Temujin Khan. Temujin was recognized as a Khan, or leader, Khan means leader, of the Kharid tribe. This is a direct result of him defeating Kong in battle. And over the next 3 years, he's going to subdue the Merket and the Naiman tribes as well, and really establish himself as the leader of all Khans. So he is now by 1206, considered the universal leader by the Mongols. That is, that he is in charge of all the Mongols, and he is really the one leader that should be followed. He's elected to this position. The clan leaders do this in an event known as a Kurultai, which is a really interesting little part of Mongol history that we don't have time to get into. And from this point forward, once he is elected as the universal leader, he takes on a new title. And historians no longer refer to him as Temujin. They start using his title instead, and that is Genghis Khan. So if you were wondering where we were going, Temujin is Genghis, or sometimes called Genghis Khan. Now, Genghis Khan has a difficult road ahead of him. He's going to greatly reward anybody who's loyal to him. Anybody who fights with him is going to be wealthy and happy and have everything they need. Anybody who stands against him is executed. And he's so successful, and people know, hey, he's going to reward me if I go to his side, and he's going to execute me if I don't, that people really do flock to his side, because he really is extremes in this sense. He extreme rewards and extreme punishment. You died if you were disloyal. No questions about who you were. He also insisted that Mongol clans and tribes stop fighting each other, and it made it a death penalty. If one clan led a raid against another, that clan, not just the raiders, that clan was wiped out. Pretty soon, no Mongol clans are fighting each other, because he's really disciplined, really stuck to this. But how do you keep these warrior people who fighting is what they do? How do you keep them focused and motivated? Well, you give them a target. And he focused their attention on the Jin Chinese, which is going to provide all kinds of challenges, because fighting other horse nomads on the steppe versus attacking a castle is a very different thing. And when you go into Jin China, you're going to be facing fortifications, and you're going to be facing disciplined armies. And this is going to have to be a story for our distant future, because I wanted to give the history of Genghis Khan to talk about how it's going to be influencing the Islamic world and touching a little bit on how it influences Europe as well. We're not actually going to be getting to their impact on Asia for a while yet. So this attack on the Jin Chinese, we'll talk about that later. But next up, we're going to be talking about the Mongol impact on Islam and Europe.